Welcome back to the Reckless Wrench Garage. On this episode, I'm going to weld together this giant puzzle, and in the end, we're going to get a totally custom set of trailing arms for the back of the Ranger. Welcome back to the Reckless Wrench Garage. As you guys saw on this episode, we're going to be building some custom trailing arms for the back of the Ranger. Now you might be wondering, hey Chris, your Ranger works really well, like why are you going to take apart the suspension and rebuild it? Well, there's three main reasons why. The first reason is the trailing arm, I'm going to be able to get more travel out of the same size shock. So currently I have the coilover mounted directly above the axle, so the axle moves 1 inch, the coilover moves 1 inch. If I want 16 inches of travel, I need 16-inch coilover. If I want 18, I would need to get a bigger coilover. And it's not really good to do that. It's, you know, after about 18 inches on the coilover, it's too much shock travel to try and compensate for, and it's just not a good design that way. So the trailing arm allows me to use a smaller coilover and get a greater amount of travel. So on the 16-inch coilover, the way I'll have it mounted, I should be seeing upwards of 20 inches of travel. The second reason to build the trailing arm setup is the ability to mount a second shock. The trailing arm is a block structure, it's extremely strong, and it's designed to support 2 shocks on it. So I can have a coilover and a bypass shock mounted on that. There are ways that you could take your current links and, you know, mount some tabs to them, beef them up a little bit, and change your mounting a little bit, you know, to support a shock. I prefer to completely build a trailing arm that is engineered to not only support the weight of the vehicle and the bypass shock if you want one, but also, you know, just be smashed into the rocks over and over again, because you want to make sure these things are sturdy. And the third reason why I'm adding a trailing arm is because I have a problem. I seem to love to take apart my truck every few months and just completely rebuild half of it for, you know, no apparent reason. It's working great. Yep, sounds like it's time to take it apart and destroy it again for like the 5th time. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I have a problem. Anyway guys, let's get into this video and I will show you how I built my own set of trailing arms.
I chose these build-it-yourself trailing arms from DIYoffroad.com. DIY Offroad sells the digital cut files and plans for the trailing arms, and then I had them cut by Adam from Deuling Design. The main reasons I chose these trailing arms over others on the market is their low cost and the fact that you could get them in virtually any length that you would need, making them very convenient to retrofit into an existing 4-link suspension. Adam did an amazing job cutting out all the pieces, and the fitment was great.
To start putting these together, I cleaned all the pieces and organized the parts into 2 piles for each arm. There are a lot of dang pieces in these things. The primary structure is all 3/16 steel, and there's 1/8-inch overlay plates that go on after the main assembly is welded, making these arms extremely strong, and they'll be able to take a beating on the rocks and going fast in the desert. Assembly of the internal structure around the shocks is first, followed by the main structure of the arm. I made some shock spacers to help keep everything aligned and spaced properly once it was welded. There are about 8 different pieces to line up and index together, and it was a bit of a challenge to get everything to stay where it needed to be. I found that the best way seemed to be lining up 2 pieces, tacking them in place, taking it back apart, lining up another 2 pieces, and repeating the process until all of the internal structure was held together.
first arm took me about an hour and a half to get everything together, but once I knew the process, the second arm took less than 30 minutes. To save some money, I cut up one of my old lower links and reused the bung and rod end. The bung and flex joint will be on the axle side of the trailing arm, and on the frame side, I opted to use an anti-wobble bushing. The anti-wobble uses a 1-inch spherical bearing and Delrin bushings, and it allows about 4 degrees of misalignment to keep the trailing arm from flipping over and damaging the shock shafts. Now that the main structure is tacked together, it's time to weld everything. I went nice and slow and welded small segments at a time so I wouldn't warp the trailing arm. The final step of this build is welding the overlay plates to reinforce and further strengthen the arms. After both of these trailing arms were welded and cooled, I had roughly 12 hours of work put into these. I have to say, putting these together was some of the most fun I've had on a project in a long time. Welding is always a nice challenge to me, and it's a skill I love to practice and improve on any chance that I get. After everything is cooled, I always like to take a step back and see what I could improve on and get better at for next time. I need to work on consistency and getting smoother start-stops in my beads. It's also important when you step back and admire your work, you need to appreciate what you just accomplished in your garage. Sure, you could have opened a catalog and ordered a Stage 9 Level 6 Extreme kit, but trust me, this is way cooler.
As you guys saw from those last few clips, I did get the trailing arms painted up and mounted on the truck. Some of you might have noticed there's an extra shock back there now, which we'll talk about in the next episode. And they turned out great. I had a ton of fun putting those things together. I definitely recommend checking them out if you're building a 4-link, or maybe you want to change up your 4-link a little bit, get a little bit more travel, or just get a different type of suspension back there for what you're trying to do. Here soon, we're gonna get out and do some testing. I promise you guys, I have so much to just go and test on the truck, but that is coming here soon. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you wanna see some more projects from us. And until next time, stay reckless. Yeah, I'm just pondering life right now. Wake up!